Welcome back to the monthly net worth update videos. This month, my net worth has hit $180,000. That's made up of the over $84,000 I have in my one stock portfolio, and then the over $75,000 I have in my other, mixed with some of my other investments including cash and then my retirement accounts. Overall, my liabilities have stayed the same, but I'm going to be giving a quick monthly update of my best ever month, growing my total net worth over $18,000 in just the last month alone. A lot of that has been attributed to the stock market rally, but this has been years in the work. So first, I'll just do a general update. So as you can see on here, you can see my personal net worth over the past few years, and you can see basically last month I was sitting at around $204,000 in assets and $43,000 in liabilities. And then this month I'm sitting at around $222,000 in assets and $43,000 in liabilities. So to quickly go through what makes up that breakup. So in the assets section, I have stock portfolios, which is the main largest driver. So as I just showed you before, what you can see here is my Vanguard stake portfolios are both the biggest contributors. These figures are a little bit outdated now, it's been a few days, but you can see they make up the majority. I have around $300 in cryptocurrency, so very little, nothing major at all. And then I have around $27,000 in my bank account in just high yield savings accounts at the moment, as I do save for a property. So those are the key drivers. And then I also have my retirement accounts. So I have around $36,000, just over that, in my savings for retirement, what we call superannuation here. And that overall makes up my total asset position of the $222,000. The liabilities is my student loans. So as you can see, I have around $43,000 in student debt. I think that was well worth it, as I have been able to go into a career that I quite enjoy, which is high paying and good growth opportunities. So progressively, I'll pay that down. You can see it was sitting at around $57,000 at its peak, but that has come down thanks to around a 20% reduction. Overall, my net worth goals by the end of this year was to hit around $200,000. I think I'm well on track to do that. I should be able to hit around my goal now updated, just with obviously how things have been going, would be around that $220,000. That'd be an amazing year for me. But I think I will have some spending coming up soon. So obviously that will retract it. But if I can hit over 210, that will be a successful year for me, kind of growing my net worth. You can see last year, at the start of last year, it was around 72,000. I grew it all the way to 158,000. And then this year so far up to around 180. So already showing good signs of growth. And this just shows you the long-term kind of position of all the hard work I've done previously. So every week I do weekly portfolio update videos on my channel where I kind of go through my investments, kind of how I'm investing, what I'm doing. And then once a month I want to do these monthly net worth update videos, just to kind of give a more holistic view of my finances. And it holds me accountable as well. So I've been growing these stock portfolios now for years. I learned myself when I was 18 how to invest. No one that I knew had invested, including my parents or siblings, so I had to teach myself, and it came with ups and downs. But what you can see, the reason why I showed this is just my stake and Vanguard portfolios over time. You can see it's been steady up and to the right. Especially as these portfolios grow, they're more vulnerable to market movements. But overall, because of my dollar cost averaging every month, basically every fortnight, realistically, whenever I get paid, I've been able to grow these portfolios to quite a reasonable amount of money. If we have a look at my total stock portfolio, you can see that around 40%, or the largest position, is in what it's called VGS, which is Vanguard's International Shares ETF. The next biggest is VOO, which is a US S&P 500 tracking ETF, which I have in my stake portfolio. And then I have 3 individual stocks: Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. And then my last is V5AH, which pretty much just tracks the S&P 500 in the US. So this is kind of how my stock portfolio is looking. Overall, my plan is to continue to grow these. If I can hit 200,000 with these, that'd be a massive goal before the end of the year. probably won't be able to. I'm sitting at around 156, I think, $157,000 at the moment. So that would take a massive effort. We'd need a massive rally in the markets, which we're already kind of seeing, and I'd need to deposit a whole lot more money than what I currently am. If we have a look at my holdings, you can see kind of how they've done. Amazon stock is sitting at around $15,111 USD. It's been a great gainer for me. So the price is now getting close to $270 a share, and I have 56 shares invested. So I'm up around 32%. But if we just look at the last month alone, you can see the stock is up nearly 30% on the back of a really strong earnings. I was heavily buying into Amazon stock, as I've documented on my channel, during its dip. So if we have a look at the last year, there was a period here where it was trading even under $200 a share. You can see my average buy price is around $202. So I was heavily buying in, as I thought this was a great opportunity to buy into a company I really believed in. I see strong growth in their white collar and their blue collar side of their business. And it's a company that I don't see myself selling anytime soon, even if the stock continues to rally. Next is Google. Like Amazon, this was a stock that I was really bullish on around a year ago when there was a big pullback. It doesn't look that big now, but at the time it was quite big, with fears around Google having to sell Chrome and split up. A lot of Department of Justice noise. And I own around 34 shares. So I'm up around 133% on Google. It's my best returning stock at the moment. It's done great for me. And anyone who's been invested in the last year and bought the dip in Google has been rewarded very well. My average share price is around 165, and I plan, like Amazon, to hold this for the long term. The last individual stock holding is Microsoft. Microsoft is sitting around 10,300, and it's had a up and down year. If you've been an investor in Microsoft, I have for a long time. They went through a strong period. I think it was 2023 when it really carried my portfolio. You can see this great run up it did. But 2024 wasn't the best for investors. It had a nice run up again, and then it really had a big retraction. The stock is up around 15% for my holdings, and I have an average buy price of around 361. I still believe in Microsoft long term. Whilst it's had a bit of a troubling time, it's had a good month, up around 13%. And again, like the others, I think long term Microsoft is still in a great position to capitalize on this AI growth, even though lots of people have fears around their CapEx investment. Last is VOO. So it's still my biggest portfolio in this position. It's still my biggest position in this portfolio, sorry. This S&P 500, I think, is a great way for myself to diversify and kind of keep even if I have stocks that don't do too well, I don't see myself as an amazing stock selector. So I still keep the majority in an S&P 500 tracking ETF. And yeah, that's done quite well for me, up 54%, as I've dollar cost averaged over time. And I think it just gives me good exposure more broadly to the markets. And you can see it's had a tremendous year, up nearly 30%. So that's a lot better than even some of the tech stocks and other places. And it's a lot less worrying. You're not so worried about daily fluctuations. You obviously get a strong dividend. All my dividends are reinvested back into the portfolio. But that's kind of how my US stake portfolio is looking. So it's sitting at around 84,000. If I could get this to hit 100,000 before the end of the year, that'd be massive. As I've never had a single stock portfolio hit 100 grand. I remember when my total stock portfolio between both of them hit 100 grand, and I was very excited about that because it was just a big milestone a lot of investors speak about, just hitting your first $100,000. But I think nowadays, especially the way the dollar's devaluing, 100 grand isn't what it used to be, but it's still a big achievement to hit nevertheless. Next is my Vanguard portfolio. So this is sitting at over $75,000, and I have two key holdings. First is VGS, which is an international shares ETF, as I've mentioned. It's my biggest position across both portfolios at around 63,400. I have 423 shares, and this just gives me exposure to 1,300 companies globally, excluding Australia. It gives me a nice broad, diversified position. Next is VA5H, which is my latest position that I've been growing. This is an S&P 500 US ETF, which is hedged against the Australian dollar. The reason why I've decided to pick that over just a normal ETF of tracking the S&P 500 is because the Australian dollar has done very well in the last year against the USD. That creates a lot of fluctuations in your returns, especially just kind of when you're translating things back. to Australian dollars. So I thought it'd be good to get exposure to the S&P 500, but if I could get it hedged to the Australian dollar, and how it kind of looks like Australia will have its interest rates higher for longer, because they never went as high as what other countries did, meaning that hopefully our currency will increase in value, because people come here to buy our bonds, as we obviously offer a higher rate potentially. But we'll see what will happen, and it kind of just helps with the fluctuations. Again, this position's now grown to $12,263, so still respectable, but still early stages, and it's where I've been kind of piling a decent amount of my money at the moment. It only recently got released, so there's not much historical data on it, but again, long term, I try to keep a long-term outlook, especially with this Vanguard portfolio, and yeah, hopefully I can get it to 100 grand like my stake portfolio one day, and just continue this growth journey that I've been on. Other than that, my retirement one I wanted to touch on as well. So superannuation is kind of our retirement. I can't remember what it's like in the US. I think it's either 401k or Roth IRA. That's some of the common terms I've heard, but I'm not too sure. And I try to invest this in kind of the high growth options. So you can see I've got around 60% in the high growth pool and 40% in the international shares. So that's kind of how this is weighted. It doesn't grow as fast, but it's basically a portion of your salary goes each paycheck to your retirement fund, and it's a bit more tax. There's a bit of a tax incentive to do this because you're only taxed at 15% compared to your individual tax rate. But again, this isn't financial advice, so this is just kind of how mine's looking. And obviously this helps towards retirement, so one day I can hopefully pull this out, and even if I don't get to use this, maybe my family gets to, or kids one day. So that's kind of how this is looking. And as this progressively grows, it will compound as well, and as I start earning more money, the contributions will get bigger. So that's why I'm tracking this as well. It's obviously not as big as my other portfolios, but it's still $36,000, which is still a lot of money for me at the stage that I am on my investing journey. I spoke about dividends earlier. In the last month, I got around $166 worth of dividends from my Vanguard portfolio, and I reinvested that back into the portfolio. As I've mentioned a lot of times on my channel, my dividends are always reinvested back into the portfolio. I don't take any out. I try to use that snowball effect. And because I don't need this money, I only invest money that I don't need at the time. So again, I keep enough cash. Maybe at times when I've kind of assessed my cash position, I probably keep too much. Sitting around 27 grand is quite high. It was obviously as high as nearly 40,000 as I was going for a house, but I saw opportunities on the market, so I decided to deploy that capital. I can obviously still sell shares in the future if I want to. I'm still I would still like to purchase real estate in the future. Just keep diversifying away from just holding individual stocks and stock positions. And hopefully that can use that to build wealth through leverage as well. Real estate in Australia has done very well. There is constant talk around, well, what if it crashes? What if this change to tax incentives and so on? But I think long term, if you're holding, it's probably an asset that I'd like exposure to as well. So that's kind of how things are looking. Regarding the cryptocurrency position, it's so small, it doesn't change anything. If I really was a crypto person, I would have been buying in while it was cheaper. But yeah, it's such a small position. I'm down around $170 or whatever it is, so it's not massive, especially when you see the movements of my other portfolio positions. But this is kind of how it's looking. I made the second graph here just today around my assets and liabilities, just so you can see over time. And again, that just shows the power of compounding. As my liabilities slowly get smaller and my assets continue to grow, this gap should continue to widen, and that will result in my personal net worth growing. I do own other assets like a car, which is not, I have no debt on that car, it's fully paid off, but I just don't count it. I know lots of people do. There's nothing wrong with counting it. I think it is a big asset for a lot of people, especially when you're young, if you have a paid off vehicle. But it's just not something I include. So if I was to include that, it'd be another, let's say $18,000 or something. I haven't really got I don't know the true value of my car, but it is still fairly newish. It's not completely new, it's like 2018 model, and it's in good condition, but that's something that I don't include. But this is kind of how I'm looking for the end of this month. I'll do another update next month as I kind of continue on this journey to a real big goal for me would be hit $250,000, so 250 grand. But yeah, still a long way to go with that. My assets are obviously growing quite quick after this great month, but we'll have to see if this trend is consistent or if it's just a 1 month gain that's kind of rallied after the retraction that recently happened. Feel free to share how your portfolios are doing and what your thoughts are on mine.